Hello, everyone. Good to have you with us today. We are sharing life stories on Life Stories Worldwide live on social media. We bring you stories from all over the world and they go out all over the world. We bring you stories of struggles, challenges, uh, joy, happiness, fulfillment, all types of stories. They can be watched time and time again on our YouTube channel. And if you go to our website, LifeStoriesWorldwide.com, you'll find lots of resources, such as our Bible app, which you can download from Android or Apple. And there you can also get a free Bible app from the Gideons, which will help you in your own personal study. If you want any help, you can telephone us on our hotline +44 794 355 0287, or go to our website if you need further information. Our life story today comes from the UK, from Blackpool on the northwest coast, where we have Peter B. Cunningham, who's going to share his story today. We welcome especially those who are watching in Ukraine and also those who are listening from Torch Trust. We know you are going to be blessed by this story that you hear today, as Peter shares his story of struggles and challenges which ended in a tremendous fulfillment. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Peter, to share your story. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So I said, my name's Peter Cunningham, and I was from Blackpool in Lancashire in the UK. Now, I was brought up in a tiny village called Horwich near Bolton in Lancashire, and it was a wonderful time. I remember as a child, brought up in a churched family, and I enjoyed going to church. And the main reason was because afterwards, when you get time to look at a map of Horwich, there's some wonderful countryside in a place called Rivington. And we used to go walking up Rivington as a family from church, directly from church. And it was a wonderful time to get out and into the open. Although as a youngster, I wasn't sure what was happening in the church. It was in a denominational church, the Roman Catholic Church. So I'd have to say, all my life, I've always known of God. Didn't know him, but knew of him. And there's a massive difference there. But in my childhood, I don't remember being a very close-knit family, in that my dad in particular worked very long hours. But I always remember the walks in Rivington, and they're very fond memories. School was difficult. I'm going to jump a little bit into school. Secondary school in particular, I found very hard because I didn't fit in with anybody. And I didn't really understand why that was. I just didn't fit in. As a teenager, I was into heavy metal music. I had the long hair. Not that you'd notice now, but I had the long hair. I used to wear the tight jeans, a leather jacket, and everything. The whole 9 yards. Of course, nobody else in school dressed like me. They were what you would call the cool kids. I certainly wasn't cool at all. And that drove me into my own little world, really. And something I discovered quite early on in school, in secondary school, was, if you may remember yourselves at school, they used to take a register in the morning, and then they used to take a register after lunch. But they never did one at the end of school. And I figured out, well, okay, when we've got this register done after lunch, I think it'd be pretty easy to skip school and nobody would be any the wiser. And that indeed was the case. And I used to do that a lot. Now, if you again, when you get time to look at your maps, you'll see that Horwich in Bolton is only maybe 15 miles from Manchester. And there was a bus service which ran through to Manchester from near the school. And I used to do that. And it was an adventure for me going into Manchester as a 14-year-old child. No one ever questioned me. I looked older than I actually was. And this is when things started to happen for me in relation to the gangland as a young boy. You see, the streets of Manchester, we're talking now, probably not 1988, was an appealing place for me. And one time I was just walking around. It was an adventure, venturing around the streets of Manchester into the back streets. And there was a lad who was getting beat up. And I thought, that's not right. There was 3 of them on him. And I decided to try and help him, being the good-natured type of guy I was. But there was more of them. So what do I do?
He's coming. Jesus is coming. I can't wait to hear the trumpet call. He's coming. Jesus is coming. And when he comes, we'll crown him Lord of all. And when he comes, we'll crown him Lord of all.
Well, we're in a back street. I can see there's a bin in the back street, and I seen a brick. So I picked up the brick, and I hit a couple of these lads with this brick. They soon scarpered. There was me and this lad. We run off the other way. The 3 guys run off the other way. That was my introduction into a world which took over my life. You see, this guy was a member of a gang, which I can't name names for obvious reasons. But from that point, I became friends with this guy. And over a period of time, as you enter this world, there's a ladder to climb. Now, I started this ladder as it was a period of a few weeks when I was asked if I'd like to earn a bit of money. 14, who doesn't want to earn a bit of money? So I became what they call a spotter. For anybody who's been involved in drugs and violence, a spotter is somebody who watches for the law, watches for the police. And when they come, there's a sign, a shout, a whistle, whichever, and everybody else disperses. So I did this for a while. And it come to the point where I became a trusted member of this family, and I was let into their world, which was completely different to the world I was in previous. This world was a dangerous world, and to think of it now, still how I got through it, this world with this family was very violent. It wasn't just the drugs that was being sold. There was also other areas like debt collection, not legal loans, if you will. An enforcer, they called it in that world. Because I had this reputation where if I said I was going to do something, it wasn't words. And there's many things that I've done which I'm not proud of. So please don't take any of this as a boast. It is not boastful. It's the world, how you can get suckered in. And it still happens to this day with children, younger people who can think they can earn some money and gain a reputation. I got into the world where I became an enforcer. It took after a few years. Now, in the enforcement game, it's usually shark loans and stuff like that, which means, you know, borrowing money from somebody who's got money, you don't pay it back. Guess what? Someone's going to come round to your house and we will get this money back somehow in whichever means necessary. And I got a reputation, as I say, because I used to have a policy where whoever answered the door, irrelevant of who it was, the first person who answered that door got hit. And there was a few occasions where you can imagine, well, look at your own household. Who could answer that door? And then they're facing four guys who are basically going to enter your house and take whatever they can to sell because you owe money for drugs. And I'm not proud of some of the instances that happened. It's not boastful. It's just the world I was in. And because of the reputation you build up, you're expected to carry out this act. Now, as time went on doing that, the trust in that world also, you earn the trust, you become the character. Nobody knows your name. Nobody knew my real name. You choose a name and that becomes your name. So now when I share testimony, wherever I go, I have to be very careful with what I say, because even now, all these years later, things do come back to give you a bite, to give you a nibble. So I have to be very careful. But this family was a massive family in the Manchester area. We were involved in things, not just drugs, like I say. And again, it pains me to say it now, but there's the things I've done is difficult to say, so I'm just going to say it as it is. So please don't be offended. I know if you're a Christian, you're not going to judge, because I'm not that person now. I've broken limbs.
He's coming. Jesus is.
Life Stories.
I've broken bones on bodies. I've bin bagged people and thrown them in the back of a van and tied them to a tree. For a short period of time, I even carried a gun. Some of the things Hollywood couldn't even write of what we did. And as I say, I'm not proud of any of them. One story, which is always at the front of my mind, is there was a guy who was trying to deal drugs on one of our patches. And I was carrying this firearm for a while. And I was told to scare him. They told, we don't want this guy. Go away, sort him out. So I watched this guy for a while, and I held the gun to his head, and he wet himself. You know, that's not nice. But that was the world I was in. And these things need to be shared, because without getting into the preaching side of things, we know there's people out there who may think they are not good enough for the Lord. Well, listen, you are. Carry on listening. You are good enough. During this time, because of my love for heavy metal music, and I'd always known of God, I decided in my wisdom at the time to have a chat with Satan. And I thought, well, if there's, I knew there's God, there must be Satan. We know there's both. There must be both. Well, I want to hear both sides. I want to find out what the truth is. So in between doing all the stuff in Manchester, I started reading up and studying the occult matters of the occult. And it reached the point where on my bedroom floor at home, under the carpet, I'd drawn a pentagram, and I used to put candles in it, and I used to sit in it. And I used to, people who'd upset me, or people who I didn't like, I used to ask the devil to do things to them. I used to do so, I don't know, just putting hexes on them, I suppose. That's the phrase you would use. And this went on for some time. Now, in between all of this, I'd started to see who is now my wife, and she hadn't got any idea what was going on. Until one day, and this is when you start to wake up, you start to think, do you know what? This isn't good. One day, very lovingly, she was cleaning my car out. I was in bed. And she found quite a substantial amount of heroin and the gun. Of course, it didn't go down too well. So I decided to explain to her the world that I'd been in for quite a few years. I mean, at this point, I would have been 22 years of age. So you got to think I've been doing this for 6 years now. And I told her everything. And she wasn't happy. She sort of understood. She understood where the money was coming from now, considering I was in a dead-end job at the time, minimum wage. Yet I always had plenty of money. And what happened after this, when she discovered everything, put things into perspective again. It's a next level. My mum was diagnosed with cancer. And I didn't really know how to feel. I felt pain. I felt hurt. But I couldn't handle it. And my life got a little bit worse. I started drinking a bit more. The violence became worse. And then one day I had this revelation that, Peter, you can't do this for the rest of your life. You need to get out. The problem is I'd witnessed people who tried to leave this lifestyle with the gangs. And you don't just walk away, because you have knowledge. And that knowledge is worth a lot of money. That knowledge can put people in prison quite easily. But I decided enough was enough. When one time, remember I said I had this reputation for whoever answered the door first got hit, got a punch, got whatever. I'm sorry to say it was a young girl. But I had the people who were with me, I had to do that. That was what I was known for. That job got done, but
he's coming Jesus is coming. I can't wait to hear the trumpet call. He's coming. Jesus is coming. And when he comes,